In an article written by Chawla in 2017, The Disturbing Reality of Human Trafficking in Children in Today's World, it states that every year there are 1.2 million children being trafficked throughout the world. These children come from an array of backgrounds and may live very different lives. The Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention published a report in 2016 that states the most common industries in which child labor trafficking occur are agriculture, domestic work, health and beauty, restaurants or small businesses, gang-involved drug sales, gun carrying, travel sales crews, and begging rings. However, there is usually a common denominator of children being trafficked. This is poverty. But how is poverty a risk factor for child trafficking? Through this video, we will explore how children in poverty are put at a greater risk for child trafficking. An article written by Jensen in 2013, Child Slavery and the Fish Processing Industry in Bangladesh, describes the concept of collateral debt bondage slavery. This is the most common form of slavery in the world today, with its prevalence mainly in South Asia. Jensen states, not being able to provide monetary or other material collateral for a loan, workers offer their own or a child's body as security against a loan or so-called advance payment of salary. Because of this practice, there are many children that are born into debt bondage. Because of rising interests, workers are often unable to pay this loan off and then pass this loan on to their children, automatically enslaving their children, sometimes before they are even born. Many of these families are desperate and see this as their only option to support their families. In many countries, families that live in poverty have virtually little to no opportunity to advance financially. In 2015, Freedom Networks US posted the article Child Trafficking for Labor in the United States. They stated that many families see child labor as a viable option to bring an income to the family. This phenomenon is not unique to the United States, as it is a situation many families find themselves in worldwide. Because of this, children miss school as an education is a privilege their family cannot afford. Not only does this deprive them from the opportunity of receiving an education, their lack of education then puts them at a greater risk of being in poverty as adults themselves. Many of these children and youth that go out to provide some source of income for their families soon become deceived. Girls will go out to get a job as a waitress and wind up being forced to work in a brothel for 18-hour days with little to no pay. Children will go into town to look for some work to make some money for their family, and then are taken into a plantation to work in dangerous conditions without pay. For families in poverty, their hopes are for their children to bring an income to the family so that they can provide a better life for them. The harsh reality is that this ends up being far from the truth. Bhavani's 2015 article, Nothing Like Chocolate, Sex Trafficking and Labor Trafficking, addresses the issues of child trafficking within the cocoa industry. Agricultural labor is often dependent on children around the world, including the Third World. When households or neighbors rely on the labor of their children for a harvest, it is often because the family is forced to use their children as they see no other option to create some sort of profit. Although child labor is not illegal in several countries, many children go into town to look for work and are trafficked into the cocoa industry and kept as slaves on plantations by their traffickers. Cameron's 2008 article, Trafficking in Humans, Structural Factors, reports, studies have documented that traffickers time their recruitment of migrants for when families are economically vulnerable and their pitch of better opportunities elsewhere is well received. Something many low-income families have in common is the lack of resources and support. Families that have no or few supports are given few options and are forced into enslavement. According to Bale's Understanding Global Slavery article written in 2008 states, those enslaved lack both the personal and financial resources and the social and governmental protections to prevent their enslavement. Unlike a wealthy or middle-class family, poverty often limits the social connections in addition to financial. This puts children at risk of being trafficked because their family is left with no other options due to the lack of resources and support. The list of reasons why children in poverty are more susceptible to being trafficked is endless. As we better understand how poverty creates vulnerabilities, We hope to explore and implement more effective interventions to put child trafficking to an end.